Alright, if you guys said that radical 32 simplifies to be 4 radical 2, you are absolutely 100% correct. Look at my little note there, just in case you needed help with that. Okay, so now we have plus or minus 4 radical 2. We're going to add 6 to both sides. We are left with a positive 4 radical 2 plus 6, or a negative 4 radical 2 plus 6. And we're done. Now for this example here, we have a little problem. Notice that I have a 2 in front of x squared. That is a big completing the square no-no. We always need that to be 1. So we can think about this a variety of ways. Remember with factoring, what we did is we actually pulled out what was in common. We can do that here. We can notice that these are all even, and a being 2 is what we want to get rid of. So we can pull that out. And that leaves x squared plus 4x plus 7 equals 0. Then, since it's on the outside, if we used our zero product rule, it would kind of divide out anyway. So we can just divide it out. That's going to cancel, and anything with a 0 as the numerator just becomes 0. Now we are ready to complete the square. So you guys try this one on your own. The answer will show up in just a second. Check for that complete the square first, see if it is a perfect square. If not, then figure out what would complete the square. Alright guys, so if you did this correct, as I'm sure you did, we first noticed that 7 definitely is not a perfect square. Okay, 4, our b term cut in half is 2. 2 squared is 4. So 4 would complete the square. We have a 7. So we need to move that out of the way. Then we take that 4 that would actually be a perfect square and we add it to both sides. We then factor by putting whatever we got when we took our b value and cut it in half in that parentheses, and finish with combining like terms on this side. So now we're going to do our square roots method. We're going to square root both sides. And right now I'm kind of seeing I have x plus 2 equal to plus or minus a radical negative 3. Now we know that that negative has to come out of there. And when it comes out of the radical, it turns into that I. So x plus 2 equals plus or minus I radical 3. Now it's the same deal. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides. Just don't forget that that negative 2, that's the real part. That has to go in front. So I'm not going to say plus or minus I radical 3 minus 2. I'm going to say negative 2 plus I radical 3, or negative 2 minus I radical 3. That's my final answer. You guys have to be very careful of your negatives here. Last one. The last thing we want to do is we want to take a function that's in standard form and put it in vertex form. We're going to use the exact same method. The only thing that's different is we have a y there. That's going to stay there for a little bit. So we have y equals x squared minus 10x plus 22. Let's see what would make it a perfect square. We'll take our b value, cut it in half, and then square whatever we got. Okay, so if this was a perfect square, we would need to see a 25 there. I don't have 25, so I need to subtract it, subtract what is there, and move it to the other side. Here's the thing. We have y minus 22. Obviously we can't combine that. We just want it to stay there for now so I can change this standard form quadratic into vertex form. So we see y minus 22 equals x squared minus 10x. Now we're ready to take that 25 and add it to both sides so I can complete the square. Negative 22 and positive 25 I can combine. So that leaves me with y plus 3 equals, now we have a perfect square. I can put that in my pattern. When I took my b value and cut it in half, I was left with a -5. So that's what goes in my parentheses. Very last step is to solve for y. So we're going to move that 3 back to where it belongs. And since you guys are super awesome and smart, you remember that when we have a vertex form quadratic, we pull out the opposite of what's in the parentheses and whatever's at the end. And this is the vertex of our parabola. This is the answer that they're looking for. That would be your final answer. If you had any questions of this lesson, please look back, look in your books, or write it down, and I will happily answer them tomorrow. Thank you. Don't forget the quiz.